He wasn't wearing a suit. He didn't walk in with a briefcase or a custom name tag. And he didn't have a title. All he had was a cardboard box, and a quiet kind of dignity. Elijah stepped into the building like he had hundreds of times before, but this time, no one looked at him like he mattered. The receptionist barely glanced up. The elevator door almost closed on him. No one held it. No one asked his name. Just another delivery guy with a worn uniform, a navy cap, and scuffed shoes. But what no one in that office knew was that this delivery wasn't just a package. It was a reckoning. And the way they treated him would come back to haunt them in less than an hour. Before I walk you through the moment this entire corporate tower collapsed on itself, piece by piece, make sure to subscribe for stories that hit hard, turn power upside down, and remind you that respect isn't optional. Because this one? It starts quiet, and ends in absolute silence. Elijah pressed 14 on the elevator panel. Executive floor. The one with glass walls, chrome trim, and men in suits pretending their words made the world move. He had no appointment. No assistant. No badge. Just the box. When he stepped out onto the floor, a few heads turned, mostly in irritation. He wasn't supposed to be there. He didn't look the part. A tall man in a gray blazer crossed his arms and said sharply, "You lost?" Elijah didn't respond. He kept walking, calmly, towards the boardroom. Inside, 5 men in pressed suits sat around a long, modern table. Laptops open. Coffee steaming. A slide deck was paused on a massive monitor. Q3 acquisition targets. Perfect timing. Elijah pushed the glass door open gently and stepped inside. Silence. One of the men, the youngest, looked up and rolled his eyes. We're in the middle of something," he said. "Try reception." Elijah placed the box down gently at the head of the table. "Delivery," he said. His voice was calm. Low. Steady. Another man laughed. "That's not for us." "Wrong floor, pal." But Elijah didn't move. He didn't flinch. And that's when someone muttered, under their breath, but just loud enough for everyone to hear. "Who let him in here?" It hit like a slap. A cold, subtle violence. Elijah felt the sting. Not because it was new, but because it was always the same. He straightened his back. Said nothing. Let the moment breathe. Because here's the truth, when you've been looked through your entire life, you learn to read people faster than they can speak. He saw the smirks. The eyes that didn't really see him. He saw the same men who always sat at the top of rooms like this, thinking they owned everything. And what they didn't realize, what made this moment dangerous, was that Elijah knew this room better than they did. Because once upon a time, this was his. But they didn't know that yet. One of the execs stood up, annoyed now. "All right, man. Leave the box and go. You're not cleared to be in here." Elijah slowly opened the box. Inside, 5 thick white envelopes, one for each man at the table. Sealed. Heavy. He began handing them out. One by one. Without a word. Confused, they opened them. And within seconds, the laughter stopped. The tension shifted. The balance of power reversed. Because inside those envelopes was something none of them expected. Formal notice. Ownership transfer. Termination letters. But we're not there yet. We're still in the moment before they knew. Still in the moment you know too well. That awkward, slow burn of humiliation. And if you've ever been made to feel like you didn't belong. If you've ever been talked down to, dismissed, or mocked just for standing in the wrong room with the wrong clothes. You understand exactly what Elijah felt in that moment. And here's the thing. You don't need revenge to win. You need alignment. You need focus. And sometimes, you need the universe to back you when no one else does. If you've been stuck, blocked by people who think they're above you, let me show you something that might flip the entire game. It's called the 369 Manifestation Code, a simple 3-digit frequency technique inspired by Nikola Tesla's energy theories. People are using it to unlock opportunities, wealth, and clarity in under 24 hours. It's not hype. It's alignment. And if you're ready to stop shrinking into rooms where no one sees you, you'll find the link in the first pinned comment. Now, back to the boardroom. The man who asked, "Who let him in here?" was now gripping the envelope like it had bitten him. Another executive muttered, "This can't be real." But it was. They had spent years operating on stolen time. Their boardroom was no longer theirs. And the man they mocked at the door would soon be signing their severance. The men around the table weren't speaking anymore. They were scanning documents, flipping pages, checking signatures, legal headers, dates, desperate for a mistake, for something they could challenge. But there was nothing. It was airtight. Elijah Green wasn't just back. He was back as majority owner. Through a silent holding company, structured across multiple states and partners, he had reacquired controlling interest in the very company he had co-founded, and been pushed out of. One man slammed his palm on the table. "This is insane. You can't just walk in and take over." Elijah finally spoke, his voice calm, but sharper now. "You didn't seem too concerned about paperwork when you forced me out without a vote." The room went cold. He stepped closer to the table. "No uniform now. No package. Just presence. I remember that day perfectly," he said. "I wore a tailored gray suit. The same seat I'm standing next to. That was mine. And when I walked in, you didn't look at me like a partner. You looked at me like a problem." One of the execs muttered, "We were protecting the company." "No," Elijah replied. "You were protecting your image. You didn't want a face like mine in your press releases. You wanted clean headlines and full control." The men looked away, silent. "And you got it, for a while." He picked up the slide remote that had been sitting near the laptop. Clicked once. The screen behind them changed. Instead of acquisition targets, it now read, "Welcome to new leadership." They turned back toward Elijah, and for the first time, they saw him fully. Not as a delivery guy. Not as a former partner. But as the man who had just changed their future. "I'm not here to destroy you," Elijah said. "I'm here to rebuild what I started. But not with people who think they're above the very hands that built this place." He turned to the man who'd said, "Who let him in here?" "I did." Then he placed a second envelope in front of him, this one labeled immediate termination. The man's face flushed. "You're making a mistake." Elijah gave a slight smile. "You did. I'm just correcting it." By the end of that meeting, 3 executives were removed. 2 more were offered revised roles, under strict performance review. HR was notified. The board was called into emergency session. But the real shock wasn't the paperwork. It was how calm Elijah was. He didn't yell. Didn't gloat. Didn't demand apologies. Because people who know their value don't beg to be seen. They walk into the room like they belong, because they do. And here's what made it all poetic. As Elijah left the boardroom, the same receptionist who had ignored him earlier now stood up, nervously straightening her blazer. "Can I help you with anything, sir?" Elijah looked at her. Kindly. Calmly. "No," he said. "I know where I'm going." And he walked into his corner office. The one with the skyline view. The one that had been taken from him. Now reclaimed. But the lesson here? It's not about revenge. It's about patience, vision, and preparation. You see, sometimes the best thing you can do when they underestimate you, is let them. Let them laugh. Let them dismiss you. Let them forget your name. Because when the time comes, they'll remember it forever. And if you're watching this thinking, maybe it's time I take back my power. You're right. But power doesn't always start with a title. Sometimes, it starts with alignment. That's why I want to remind you, if you're serious about unlocking your potential, your confidence, and even your wealth, you need to check out the 369 Manifestation Code. This isn't just theory. It's a method that's helped thousands flip their lives around using one simple 3-digit frequency, built on Tesla's powerful discoveries. Click the first pinned comment to get started. It might just be your first real step toward the life they told you you'd never have. And hey, if this story gave you chills, or lit a fire inside you, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments. Have you ever been underestimated? How did you prove them wrong? Because the quiet ones, the ones they laugh at, are always the ones they regret crossing in the end.